The first time we met, I fainted from hunger right outside the dining hall. It's humiliating to admit, but I was so hungry my vision was going black. I was trying to make it to the doors, but my legs gave out, and I just collapsed. When I came to, I was in an unfamiliar bed. Sunlight streamed through the window, making my eyes ache. "Hey, you're awake." A girl's voice. I turned my head and saw her sitting in a chair by the bed, her phone in her hand, smiling at me. She was pretty, not in a stunning, stop-you-in-your-tracks way, but in a clean, wholesome way that put you at ease. Her eyes were bright, and she had two faint dimples when she smiled. "Where?" I started, my throat completely dry. "This is the campus health center," she said. "You passed out by the Michigan Union Dining Hall. I was walking by, so I brought you here. Are you okay? Should we get you to the hospital?" I shook my head. The hospital costs money. I didn't have a dime. "Well, drink some water at least." She stood up, grabbed a cup from table, and handed it to me. I took it and drank. The water was lukewarm. "What's your name? What's your major?" she asked. "Leo Martinez." "Pre-law." "Oh, pre-law. I'm an English major." "Claire Williams," she smiled. "Why'd you pass out?" "Low blood sugar." I didn't say anything. She didn't press. She just got up, pulled a muffin out of her bag, and handed it to me. "Here, eat something." I stared at the muffin, not reaching for it. "Go on," she said, pushing it into my hand. "You can't run on empty." I lowered my head, tore off the paper, and took a bite. It was a blueberry muffin, sweet and soft. I hadn't eaten anything that good in a long time. She sat beside me, watching me eat in silence. I finished in a few bites. I clutched the wadded-up paper in my hand, not knowing what to say. "Want another?" she asked. I shook my head. "Let me walk you back to your dorm then," she said, standing up. "You just woke up. You shouldn't walk alone." I told her she didn't have to. She said it was no problem. She didn't have any classes that afternoon anyway. We left the health center and walked slowly along the campus diagram. The September sun was warm, and the leaves on the oak trees were just starting to turn gold. "Where are you from?" she asked. "Ohio." "Where in Ohio?" "A small town outside Cleveland." "You've never heard of it." She smiled and left it at that. When we got to my dorm, I said, "Thanks." "Don't mention it," she said. "Hey, if you're ever hungry again, you can find me. I'm in West Quad, room 302. Claire Williams." I nodded and turned to go inside. At the entrance, I glanced back. She was still standing there, looking down at her phone. The sun lit up her hair, turning it a light shade of brown. I kept walking. That night, I lay in my dorm bed, tossing and turning. I couldn't get the taste of that muffin out of my head. I kept seeing her fingers as she handed me the water, the two faint dimples when she smiled. My roommates were gaming, keyboards clacking away. I pulled the covers over my head and shut my eyes. The next day at lunch, I went to the dining hall. I got 2 dinner rolls and a cup of the free soup, then sat in a corner by myself. Halfway through my meal, someone sat down across from me. I looked up. It was Claire, smiling at me. "Small world," she said. "You eat here too?" I looked down and kept eating, saying nothing. She didn't seem to mind, just ate from her own tray. I snuck a glance. She had beef stew, a scoop of mac and cheese, and a side salad. When I finished, I got up to return my tray. She got up and followed. As I was leaving, she asked, "You have class this afternoon?" "Yeah." "What class?" "Jurisprudence." "Oh, I have modern American lit," she smiled. "Well, I'll see you around. Bye." She waved and walked off in the other direction. I stood there for a moment, watching her disappear into the crowd. The third day, I saw her in the dining hall again. Same spot, same meal for me. She walked over with her tray of beef stew and sat down across from me. "Why do you always just eat rolls?" she asked. I didn't answer. She pushed her plate toward me. "Try some of this stew. It's actually pretty good for dining hall food." I shook my head. "No, thanks." "Come on," she said, scooping a piece of beef onto my plate. "Don't be shy." I stared at the piece of meat, not moving. She didn't push, just went back to her own meal. After a minute, I picked up my fork and ate it. She looked up at me, smiled, and gave me another scoop. After that day, I started seeing her in the dining hall all the time. Sometimes for lunch, sometimes for dinner. She would always sit across from me, and she would always share some of her food. I started talking to her. I told her about my family, how my dad died when I was a kid, how my mom raised me by herself until she passed away last year. I told her I was completely on my own. She told me her family was from Ann Arbor, that her parents were both teachers, and she had a younger brother in high school. "You're lucky," I said. "It's not so great." They're always on my case about something. It's annoying. I let out a small laugh. She laughed too. During that time, I started looking forward to going to the dining hall. Not for the food, but to see her. She'd sit across from me, telling me about her English professors, her roommates, the book she was reading. I would just listen, chiming in every now and then. The sun would shine through the window, catching her face and making her eyes sparkle. One day, she asked me, "Are you free this weekend?" I said yes. "Good," she said. "I want to take you somewhere." That weekend, she took me into town. After a short bus ride, we ended up at the front of a neat little house in a quiet subdivision. She knocked, and an old woman answered. "This is my grandma," Claire explained. "I come visit her every weekend." The old woman's eyes crinkled into a smile when she saw me. "Claire, honey, is this your boyfriend?" Claire blushed. "Grandma, don't be silly. This is my classmate." I stood there, silent. Her grandma ushered me inside, insisted I sit down, and immediately started bustling around, getting me tea and bringing out a plate of cookies. I sat on the couch, taking in the tidy little house, the old photos on the wall, the potted flowers on the windowsill. Claire sat next to me and whispered, "Don't mind her. My grandma's like this with everyone. Super friendly." I said it was fine. We had lunch at her grandma's. The old woman made a whole spread and kept piling food onto my plate. I kept my head down and ate until my plate was clean. "Have some more?" her grandma asked. I shook my head and said I was full. Claire looked at me and smiled. On the way back, she said, "My grandma really likes you." "She does." "Yeah." She said, "You seem like a good, honest guy." I didn't say anything. Honest. I almost laughed. If I were honest, I'd still be stuck in that dead-end town in Ohio. After that day, I went with her to see her grandma most weekends. The old woman really did like me. She always cooked for me and would try to slip me some cash. I'd refuse, but she'd insist, telling me to buy myself a good meal and not go hungry. I took the money. I knew it was wrong, but I desperately needed it. One night, lying in bed, I thought about the day, about her grandma pressing a $20 bill into my hand, about Claire putting food on my plate, about her saying, "See you tomorrow," when she dropped me off at my dorm. A wave of panic washed over me. What was happening? Wasn't I just using her? She was from a well-off family, soft-hearted, easy to fool. All I had to do was play the victim, and she'd help me. It was a simple transaction. So why couldn't I stop thinking about her dimples when she smiled? Why did I look forward to seeing her in the dining hall every day? Why did I feel like, when I was with her, the emptiness inside me didn't feel so vast? I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't sleep that night. The spring semester of our freshman year, we got together. She was the one who made the first move. We were walking around the track one night. The moon was full, casting a pale light on the rubber lanes. She was walking beside me, slower than usual. "Leo," she said suddenly. "Yeah. What do you think of me?" I hesitated for a second. "You're great." "What's great about me?" I thought about it. "You're kind, you're generous, and you're beautiful." She laughed, a happy, genuine sound. Then she stopped walking and turned to face me. "So, do you like me?" I looked into her eyes. The moonlight reflected in them, and I could see myself. "I do," I said. Then she stood on her toes and kissed my cheek. That night, I walked her back to her dorm. At the entrance, she grabbed my hand and said, "Leo, let's promise we'll stay together, always." I said, "Okay." She smiled, then turned and ran inside. I stood there, watching her disappear up the stairs. There was a place in my chest that felt soft and achy. I didn't sleep at all that night. I thought about the blush on her cheeks when she kissed me, the conviction in her voice when she said, "Always," the way her dress swayed as she ran away. And I thought, maybe I really do like her. Not because of her family's money, or because she was an easy mark, but because of her. Because she had two faint dimples when she smiled. Because of the way she put food on my plate. Because of the way the sun turned her hair a light shade of brown. I liked her. I really, truly liked her. Sophomore year, we got an apartment together near campus. It was a small one-bedroom, but she kept it spotless. She put up little trinkets from her parents' house on the windowsill, stuck our photos on the wall, and changed the sheets to a pale blue set she liked. Every morning, I'd bike with her to her classes before heading to my own. We'd meet up in the dining hall for lunch. In the evenings, she got out of class earlier, so she'd go grocery shopping and start dinner. When I'd get home, I'd always find her in the kitchen, hear the clatter of pots and pans, and smell the aroma of whatever she was cooking. "You're back," she'd say, turning to smile at me. "Go wash up. Dinner's almost ready." I drop my backpack, wash my hands, and sit at the table waiting. She'd bring out the dishes one by one. "Try this, it's a new recipe." I take a bite and tell her it was delicious. She'd beam, her eyes curving into little crescent moons. After dinner, I'd wash the dishes while she cleared the table. Then we'd curl up on the couch and watch TV, or she'd read while I scroll through my phone. Sometimes we'd just talk about our day, about our plans for the future. "Leo," she said one night, her head resting on my shoulder. Let's get married after we graduate." I froze. She looked up at me. "Will you?" I looked into her eyes. The lamp cast a soft glow on her face, and her eyes were shining, reflecting me. "I will," I said. She smiled and buried her face in my chest. That night, I held her for a long time, unable to sleep. I thought this could be good. Graduate, get married, find a job, have a kid, live a quiet, normal life. I thought, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have met her. In the fall of our junior year, she started getting heavily involved in volunteer work. First, it was visiting a nursing home every weekend with a student group, just talking to the residents. Then it was an orphanage, teaching the kids how to draw and sing. After that, she joined a campus outreach program that offered peer support for students with mental health issues. "There's this one guy," she told me one night in bed, "a sophomore in the psych department. His story is so sad." I rolled over, my back to her. "His name is Ethan Cole. He said his parents divorced when he was little and his grandma raised him. She passed away last year, so now he's all alone. I think he's dealing with depression, has trouble sleeping, can't eat." The program asked me to talk with him. Something shifted inside me. "How are you helping him?" I asked. "Just talking to him, letting him vent," she said. "He's really quiet and withdrawn, but he seems to open up to me." I didn't ask any more questions. Ethan Cole. I committed the name to memory. After that, she started mentioning him a lot. She'd tell me he came to talk to her again, that he seemed to be doing a little better, that he'd texted her again to say thank you. I listened without saying a word, but a knot of discomfort was tightening in my stomach. One night, she came home very late. I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone. I heard the door open, but didn't move. "You're still awake?" she said, walking in quietly. "What time is it?" I asked. 11:30. "Why so late?" I was talking with Ethan, and we just lost track of time. She climbed into bed and leaned over to kiss me. I turned my head away. She paused. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." She let out a little sigh, then rolled over, her back to me. I lay awake the entire night. My mind was racing. I thought about how I'd met her, fainting outside the dining hall, her helping me back to the health center, giving me the muffin, sharing her food, taking me to meet her grandma. I thought about how I'd won her over. The pity play, the sob story, making her feel sorry for me. It was the exact same playbook that Kid Ethan was using. That was my game. I thought about the gentle, patient tone in her voice when she talked about him. I thought about her coming home so late tonight, saying they were just talking. I thought about the way she was sleeping now, with her back to me. My insecure, sensitive heart skipped a beat. The next morning, before she woke up, I picked up her phone. She never used a passcode. I opened her iMessage and found the chat with Ethan Cole. I scrolled. Most of the messages were from her. "How are you feeling today? Remember to take your meds. You can text me anytime you need to talk. Don't overthink things. It'll get better one day at a time." His replies were short. Mostly "K, thanks," or "will do." I scrolled to the very bottom and saw her last message. "Ethan, you have to believe in yourself. The world is a good place, and you deserve to be loved and to be happy. I'll always be here to support you." I stared at that message for a long, long time. Then I closed the app and put the phone back where I found it. When she got up, I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. She tiptoed out of the room to get ready. A few minutes later, she came back and stood by the bed. "Leo," she whispered. I didn't move. She stood there for another moment, then leaned down and gently kissed my cheek before leaving. The click of the door closing. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. She came home that evening, and I didn't say a word about it. She asked me what was wrong, and I said nothing. She went into the kitchen to make dinner, and I sat on the couch, that one message replaying in my mind on a loop. "You deserve to be loved and to be happy." She used to say that to me. Now she was saying it to someone else. I remembered that day in the dining hall, the smile on her face as she shared her food. I remembered her saying, "If you're ever hungry again, you can find me." I remembered the blush on her cheeks when she kissed me. Back then, I thought all of that was just for me. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out, she was like that with everyone. After that, I started watching her. I paid attention to when she left, when she came home, the expression on her face when she looked at her phone, the tone of her voice when she mentioned Ethan. She didn't seem to notice. She was the same as always, talking to me, cooking for me, resting her head on my shoulder as we watched TV. But I felt more and more uneasy. One evening, she took a call and went out onto the balcony to talk for a long time. I sat in the living room, unable to hear her words, just watching her silhouette. I saw her nodding, saw her laugh once or twice. When she came back inside, I asked, "Who was that?" "Ethan," she said. "He was having a rough day, so we talked for a bit." I didn't say anything. She sat next to me, leaning against my shoulder. "He's in a really tough spot. All alone here, no one to look after him. I just want to be there for him." I said, "Okay. You don't mind, do you?" she asked, looking up at me. "I don't mind," I said. She smiled and rested her head back on my shoulder. I stared at the TV screen, but my mind was a million miles away. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to marry her. She was a good person, a great person even, but she wasn't good wife material. It wasn't because she'd done anything wrong. It was because of who she was, that impulse she had to be kind to everyone. Today it was Ethan Cole. Tomorrow it could be some other sad case, and the day after that another one. I couldn't live with that. I knew I was probably overthinking it. I knew there was nothing going on between her and Ethan. I knew this was just her nature. Kind, empathetic, raised in a loving home, unable to see others suffer. But I couldn't stop my mind from going there, because I, myself, had gotten to where I was by using that very same vulnerability. I knew how easy it was to win over a girl like her. All you had to do was play the victim, act weak, make her feel sorry for you, and she would give you everything. If I could fool her, someone else could too. I knew I was selfish and insecure, and I just couldn't take that risk. Senior year, I started secretly sending out my resume. I only applied to out-of-state firms. The farther, the better. She didn't know a thing. Her daily routine was the same. Go to class, go to her volunteer group, visit her grandma, and keep talking to Ethan. One night, she asked me, "Leo, what are your plans after graduation? Grad school or work?" I said, "Haven't decided yet. Are you going to stay here or go back to Ohio?" "I don't know. Depends." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to stay here since my parents are here. Can you stay too? Then we wouldn't have to do long distance." I didn't respond. She added, "My dad said he could help you find a job. He knows some people in town." I said, "He doesn't need to do that." She looked at me, but didn't say anything else. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She was asleep beside me, her breathing light and even. Moonlight filtered through a gap in the curtains, illuminating her face. Her eyelashes were long, casting tiny shadows on her cheeks. I watched her, a dull ache in my chest, but I wasn't going to change my mind. After that, I grew quiet. I stopped talking about the future with her. Whenever she brought up her post-graduation plans, I'd change the subject. When she asked if I wanted to stay in town, I'd say I wasn't sure. She seemed to sense something was off, but she never guessed what it was. Because Ethan was in trouble again. One night, she got a phone call and rushed out of the apartment. I asked where she was going. She said Ethan had cut himself in his dorm and she had to go check on him. I froze for a second, then said, "I'll go with you." When we got to the campus health center, Ethan was getting his wrist bandaged. There were several cuts, not deep, but they had bled a lot. He sat on the edge of the bed, pale and silent, his head hung low. Claire walked over and sat down next to him. "Ethan," she said softly, "why would you do something so foolish?" He didn't look up. She put a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay. It's all over now. I'm here." I stood in the doorway, watching them. A cold feeling spread through my chest. She stayed to comfort him late into the night. I went back to the apartment alone. Lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. The image from the clinic replayed in my mind. Her sitting next to him, her hand on his shoulder, her soft voice saying, "I'm here." She'd said that to me before. We were walking on the track one night, and I told her how hard it had been since my mom died. She took my hand and said, "It's okay. I'm here." Now she was saying it to someone else. When she came back the next morning, I was sitting on the couch. Is he okay? I asked. He is now, she sighed. The doctor said it's a good thing they found him when they did. I didn't say anything. She came over and sat next to me. Leo, I think I'm going to have to spend more time with him for a while. His condition isn't stable, and I'm worried he'll try something again. I said, okay. She looked at me. You're not mad, are you? I'm not mad, I said. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I knew you'd understand. Thank you. I patted her on the back and said nothing. After that, she spent even more time with him. Sometimes she'd be with him all afternoon or come home very late at night. I didn't ask, and she didn't explain. Maybe she thought she didn't need to. One day I got an email. It was from a firm in San Francisco, asking if I was available for an interview. I replied yes. Then I started preparing. I bought a train ticket, booked a motel room, and got my interview materials together. When she asked what I was so busy with, I told her I was working on my senior thesis. She believed me. On the day of the interview, I told her I was in the library to write, then I got on a bus to the train station. On the train, I sent her a message. Might be home late. Thesis is giving me a headache. She replied, okay, don't work too hard. I looked at the message, then put my phone in my pocket. Outside the window, fields and small towns flew by. The interview went well. The firm said if I wanted the job, I could start right after graduation. The salary wasn't great, but it was enough to live on. I told them I'd think about it. On the train ride back, I tried to call my mom. The line just beeped. It took me a second to remember she was gone. I put my phone away and stared out the window. It was dark by the time I got back to Ann Arbor. I opened the door to our apartment, and she was sitting on the couch, reading a book. When she saw me, she looked up. You're back. Have you eaten? Yeah. Finish your thesis? Almost. She smiled. That's good. I made that meatloaf you like. It's staying warm in the oven if you want some. I looked at her, and for a moment, something in my chest stirred. Then I said, okay. That night, I lay in bed wide awake. She was asleep beside me, her breathing soft and even. The moonlight illuminated her long eyelashes. I thought about the day I fainted outside the dining hall and the way she helped me up. I thought about the muffin she gave me, about her fingers as she put food on my plate, about the way her hair looked in the sun, about her shining eyes when she asked me to marry her. I thought about so many things. Then I thought about her sitting next to Ethan, her hand on his shoulder, whispering, I'm here. I thought about the messages she sent him. You deserve to be loved and to be happy. I thought about all the afternoons and evenings she spent with him, all the moments I never saw. I closed my eyes. I had no regrets. On graduation day, she wore her cap and gown and smiled at me from across the crowd. I walked over to her, and she linked her arm through mine. Leo, we graduated. I said, yeah. Let's get a picture together, she said, pulling me toward the lawn. My dad's here. He can take it for us. I saw a middle-aged man standing nearby, with glasses and a kind face, smiling at us. Hello, sir, I said. Hello, he said, looking me over. Claire's told me a lot about you. I didn't know what to say. Claire pulled me into place, and her dad held up his phone and snapped a photo. One more, she said. Leo, smile a little. I forced a smile. Her dad took another picture. Afterward, she said, Dad, you can head home. Leo and I are going to walk around campus one last time. Her dad nodded, gave me one last look, and left. She pulled me along as we walked through campus. We passed the dining hall where we first met, the track where we used to walk, the path where we had our first kiss. Leo, she said suddenly, what are your plans now that we've graduated? I stared at the path ahead, saying nothing. My dad said he can help you find a job, she continued. But if you don't want his help, you can find something on your own. There are a lot of opportunities here. I'm sure you'll find something great. I still didn't say anything. She stopped walking and looked at me. Now, I turned and faced her. The sun lit up her face, making her eyes shine. The collar of her gown was crooked. I reached out and straightened it. Claire, I said. Yeah. Take care of yourself. She looked confused. What do you mean? I didn't answer. I just turned and started walking away. Now, wait, she called out behind me. I didn't stop. That night, I packed my things. I didn't have much, a few sets of clothes, some books. It all fit in one backpack. She was in the living room watching TV, completely unaware of what I was doing in the bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed for a moment. Then I stood up and walked into the living room. I'm heading out for a bit, I said. Where are you going? To meet a friend. Dropping something off for him. She looked at me. Be back soon. I said, okay. Then I turned and walked out the door. I stood downstairs for a minute. I looked up at our window. The light was on. I could see her shadow moving behind the curtain. I took out my phone and sent her a message. You're a good person, but I'm not. We're done. Then I turned off my phone, popped out the SIM card, and threw in the trash. The train station was crowded. An announcement came over the speakers, signaling the start of boarding. I stood up and followed the crowd. I found my seat on the train and sat down. The train began to move. Outside the window, the city lights grew smaller and more distant until they blurred into nothing. I closed my eyes. The 2 years in San Francisco went by fast. I worked as a legal consultant for a corporation. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough. I rented a small studio apartment for myself. On weekends, I'd sometimes walk along the beach or just stay in and watch movies. I met some people, but never got close to anyone. When my coworkers invited me out, I usually said no. It wasn't that I didn't want to go. It was that I didn't know how to be around people anymore. Sometimes late at night, I would think about the past. Then I would force myself to stop. It was over. I never got a new phone number, but I never turned on that old phone either. That SIM card was long gone, buried in a landfill somewhere. She's probably forgotten all about me by now, I thought. One day, I got a Facebook message. It was from an old classmate I'd run into in San Francisco. He was getting married back in Michigan and wanted to know if I could make it to the wedding. I thought about it for a moment, then replied yes. On the day of the wedding, I took the first flight out. The hotel was in the city center, a huge place with a large photo of the bride and groom at the entrance. I went inside, found a reception hall, and picked a table in the corner. The room was filled with familiar faces. A few of them saw me, did a double take, then gave me a slight nod of acknowledgement. I nodded back. The ceremony began. The bride and groom exchanged rings on stage, reciting the same old vows. The crowd clapped, cheered, and took pictures. I watched, feeling nothing. After the ceremony, dinner was served. I ate quietly, occasionally looking around the room. Halfway through the meal, someone sat down next to me. Leo Martinez? I turned my head and was taken aback. It was an old college classmate, Mark Peterson. He used to live in the dorm room across from mine. His girlfriend had been one of Claire's roommates. It really is you, he said, staring at me. Haven't seen you in years. Yeah, it's been a while, I said. He looked me up and down. Where are you now? San Francisco. Oh yeah? How's that going for you? It's okay. He nodded and didn't press further. After a moment, he said quietly, You know, Claire has been looking for you this whole time. I froze. When you just disappeared after graduation, she was a complete wreck, he said. Crying every day, asking everyone if they had heard from you. I think she even got diagnosed with depression. She quit all her clubs, stopped going to any social events. I didn't say anything. She told my girlfriend she was just tired, that she didn't have the energy to help anyone anymore. He looked at me. Leo, what the hell happened with you back then? How could you just leave without a word? I stared at my plate, unable to answer. He waited for a response. When I didn't give one, he sighed, stood up, and walked away. I sat there for a long time, not moving. My head was spinning, filled with his words. I thought about the way she used to be. The two faint dimples when she smiled, her bright eyes, the way her hair turned light brown in the sun. I thought about her fingers as she gave me food, the way she looked curled up on the couch watching TV, the sound of her voice when she said, Let's promise we'll stay together, always. I thought about so many things. My conscience, a thing I barely knew I had, pricked me with sharp pain. When the wedding reception ended, I stood up and started to leave. As I reached the doorway, a voice called out from behind me. Now, I stopped in my tracks. The voice came again, closer this time, but still so quiet it felt like it was drifting from far away. I finally found you. I slowly turned around. She was standing a few feet away from me. She was wearing a simple white dress. Her hair was longer than I remembered, falling over her shoulders. She was so much thinner. Her cheekbones were sharp, and there were dark circles under her eyes. But her eyes were still the same, bright and clear, with my reflection in them. We just stood there, neither of us speaking. Sunlight streamed through the hotel's glass doors, bathing her in a soft glow, turning her hair that familiar shade of light brown. It was just like that afternoon years ago, when she stood outside my dorm, and the sun shone on her just like this. I opened my mouth, wanted to say something, but I had no idea what to say. She just kept looking at me, her eyes shining. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "Leo," she said, her voice so soft it was like a leaf falling on water. "I finally found you." I stood there, speechless. To be honest, in that moment, I actually felt a pang of guilt. We just stood there. The light from the entrance pooled on the floor between us. Her shadow stretched out long and thin all the way to my feet. "Claire." I finally managed to say her name. My voice was hoarse, like I hadn't used it in years. She looked at me, her eyes bright, my reflection trapped within them. The same eyes as 2 years ago, and yet, she looked so different, so frail. I started. "How did you find me?" "Mark told me," she said. "He said you were here for the wedding. So I came." Mark Peterson, the guy who'd been sitting next to me. I said nothing. She took one step forward. Just one. It brought her closer, but there were still a few feet between us. "I've been looking for you for 2 years, she said. Her voice was quiet and flat, with no emotion, as if she were commenting on the weather. "I know," I said. "You know, Mark just told me." She looked at me, her expression unreadable. I didn't know what to do. I stood there, my hands hanging uselessly at my sides, clenching and unclenching. A car drove by outside, its horn beeping. The sound was both distant and jarringly close. "Why didn't you answer my messages?" she asked. I remained silent. "Why was your phone off? Why did you change your number? Why did you make it impossible for me to find you?" She asked the questions one by one, her voice still eerily calm, as if she were asking a stranger for the time. Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you?" she interrupted. "Do you know how many places I went? Do you know that I can't sleep at night because my head is just full of you?" Her voice started to tremble, just for a second, but I heard it. I looked into her eyes. They were still bright, but something was shimmering in them now. "Do you know she started, but then stopped. She pressed her lips together into a thin line. Her chin quivered, almost imperceptibly. I watched her, unable to form a single word. Someone walked past us, glanced over, and then kept going. Their footsteps faded, and it was quiet again. After a long moment, she spoke again. "Leo," she said, "you owe me an explanation." I looked at her. The sunlight on her face highlighted the dark circles under her eyes, like two permanent bruises. Her gaunt face, her sharp collarbones, her wrists as thin as twigs. I suddenly remembered that afternoon 2 years ago. She was standing outside my dorm, and the sun was shining on her just like this, turning her hair a light brown. But back then, she was smiling, her face was fuller, her eyes curved into crescent moons. Back then, she had said, "If you're ever hungry again, you can find me." Back then, she had said, "Let's promise we'll stay together, always." Back then, she had said, "Let's get married after we graduate." I closed my eyes. When I opened them, she was still standing there, watching me. "Are you hungry?" I asked. She looked at me, startled. "I asked if you're hungry," I repeated. She didn't answer. "Let me buy you something to eat," I said. Then I took a step forward. Just one, bringing me closer to her. She looked at me, and the shimmering thing in her eyes finally broke free. A single tear rolled down her cheek, dripped off her chin, and fell to the floor. Then a second, and a third. She didn't make a sound, just stood there as the tears streamed down her face. I stood there and watched her cry. The sunlight fell between us, illuminating the teardrops on the polished floor like tiny diamonds. The noise of the city outside, the chatter from the reception hall inside, it all faded away. In that space, it was just the two of us, one of us crying, the other watching. "Let's go," I said. She didn't move. "I owe you an explanation," I said. "But this isn't the place to talk." She still didn't move. "Claire," I said her name. "Let's go." She lifted her head and looked at me. Her eyes were red, her face stained with tears. But they were still bright, so bright, and my reflection was still there. She nodded. We walked out of the hotel side by side. The sun was bright, making me squint. She walked beside me, her pace slow. I matched it. "What do you want to eat?" I asked. "Anything," she said. "There's that diner down the street. We used to go there." She stopped and looked at me. I looked back at her. "You remember?" she asked. I didn't answer. She looked down and started walking again. The diner was still there, and the same owner was behind the counter. He saw us walk in, did a double take, and then smiled. "Hey, it's you two. Haven't seen you in a long time." She didn't say anything, just found a booth in the corner and sat down. I sat across from her and ordered 2 bowls of chili. The diner wasn't busy. It was quiet, except for the sizzle of something cooking in the kitchen. She sat with her head bowed, lost in thought. I looked at the top of her head. Her hair was still dark, but it didn't seem to have the same shine as before. "Claire," I said. She looked up. "What happened to Ethan Cole?" I asked. She flinched. "What happened to him after?" She stared at me, and something flickered in her eyes. "He's dead," she said. "He jumped from the roof of his dorm one night." I said nothing. "Is that why you left?" "Because of him?" she asked. I didn't answer. She stared at me for a long time. Then, a bitter smile touched her lips. It wasn't a happy smile. "Leo," she said, "did you think I was in love with him?" I still didn't speak. "Did you think I felt the same way about him as I did about you?" I lowered my gaze to the table. The dark wood was stained with grease, covered in carved initials and cigarette burns. "No," I said. "No. I never thought you were in love with him." She looked stunned. I lifted my head and met her eyes. "I knew you didn't love him," I said. "I went through your phone." Her eyes widened in shock. "Then why?" I didn't answer. The chili arrived. 2 steaming bowls placed on the table. The owner told us to enjoy and walked away. I stared at my bowl, the steam rising into my face. "Because that's how we got together," I said. She was silent. I fainted outside the dining hall. "You took me in, you gave me food, you shared your meals, you took me to meet your grandma." I was grateful, but my initial reason for getting close to you, it was so you would help me. I kept my eyes on my chili. Later, I fell for you. I really did. But when Ethan showed up, I knew his game immediately. Another sob story, another guy for you to feel sorry for, another charity case waiting for you to save him. I looked up at her. If I could fool you, then anyone could. The color drained from her face. "So I couldn't marry you," I said. "I couldn't take that risk. I couldn't bet that you wouldn't run into another sad story, another guy to feel sorry for. You're too trusting, too easy to fool." When I saw you smile at him, being so kind to him, it drove me crazy. I knew there was nothing between you, but it still bothered me. I hated that you were like that with everyone. I thought I was special, but it turns out you're the same with everybody. I looked at her. Being with you, I was on edge every single day, terrified that one day you'd treat someone else the same way. That you take someone else home to meet your grandma, share your food with them, ask them to marry you. I couldn't handle it, so I quit. I was finished. The diner was quiet. The sizzling from the kitchen had stopped. Outside, someone walked by, their footsteps faint. She just looked at me, her eyes bright, my reflection trapped inside them. After a long time, she finally spoke. "Leo," she said, "do you know why I helped you?" I didn't answer. "Because that day, when you fainted outside the dining hall, you were still clutching a dinner roll in your hand." I was stunned. "That roll was hard as a rock," she said. "It was obviously from the day before. You couldn't bear to throw it away. You held onto it so tightly, you didn't even let go when you passed out." Her eyes turned red. I just thought, this person must be having such a hard time to not even be able to part with a single stale roll. "Esteva here, speechless." "I didn't help you because I felt sorry for you," she said. "I helped you because you were in such a difficult situation, yet you still held onto that roll. That told me you truly needed help." Tears started to fall from her eyes. "And do you know why I fell in love with you? It wasn't because you played the victim. It was because even though you came from nothing, you worked your ass off to get a scholarship. It was because you only had 2 outfits, but they were always clean. It was because when you ate the food I cooked, your eyes would light up, and it was adorable. It was because when you looked at me, it was with your full attention, and I loved being the only thing you saw. It was because when you held me, your heart would beat so fast I could feel it." She stood up. "I helped you because you were worth helping. I loved you because you were you." She looked down at me. "Did you really think I'm like that with everyone? Did you think I helped Ethan because he used the same playbook as you? His grandmother died. He was all alone. He was depressed. He genuinely needed help. But he wasn't the person I loved. He was never that person. I know the difference between helping someone and loving someone." She took a step forward until she was standing right in front of me. "The person I love is you. Only you." She looked me straight in the eye. "Leo, I looked for you for 2 years. 2 years. Do you have any idea how long that is?" I couldn't speak. "I don't blame you for leaving. You had your reasons. I can understand that. And I don't blame you for not trusting me. Given your past, I can understand that too." Her tears continued to fall. "But I can't accept that you just left without any explanation. I can't accept that I spent 2 years looking for you, And if I hadn't run into you today, I don't know how much longer I would have kept looking. She couldn't continue. I stood up and faced her. The sunlight came through the window, illuminating her face and her tears, making them sparkle. I reached out and wiped the tears from her cheeks. She looked at me, her eyes shining. "Claire," I said, "I don't deserve you." She didn't say anything. I've always known I don't deserve you. I knew it from the first moment I met you. You're so good, so pure, so kind. And me? My mind is full of schemes, of calculations, of angles. I approached you with an ulterior motive. I pursued you deliberately. All those sob stories I told you, they were to make you feel sorry for me. I looked at her, but I really did fall in love with you. I swear. Do you believe me? She nodded. I left because I was scared. When I saw you being so good to someone else, I got scared. I was afraid of losing the one good thing I had. And I figured it would be better to have never had it all. My voice started to shake. I was always alone. No one to care for me. No one to ask about me. You were the first person who was ever truly good to me. The very first. And it terrified me. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "So I left," I said. "I was afraid that one day you would leave me. So I left first. That way, it was me leaving you, not you leaving me." I said everything. The diner was silent. She just looked at me for a very, very long time. Then, she reached out and took my hand. Her hand was cold and thin, her bones pressing against my skin. But her grip was tight. "Leo," she said, "I would never leave you." I looked into her eyes. "You're the one I've always loved," she said. "How could I ever leave you?" The sunlight fell between us, on our clasped hands. I looked into her shining eyes and saw nothing but my own reflection. And I thought, I might have to con this woman one more time. End.